All right. All right. So we've come to talk about Connect for the follow-up, for the win, because we want our vacation Bible schools to not only have a fun week. We know it will be a fun week for you at Vacation Bible School, but we don't want it just to end there. We want to make sure that we have strong follow-up happening. So let's think about this. Why is follow-up so important? And take a minute and put that in the chat box. Why do you feel like follow-up is so important? What are some reasons that you think that follow-up is so important to Vacation Bible School, or really to any event? Let's see, I'll put my chat up so I can see. All right. So why is it's a personal connection to make them feel valued? That's right, Dave. That's right. Yep. Yep. Continuing the connection with the unchurched to help them plug into new Christians and their families to church. That's right. To invite them. That's right, Shulam. To invite them back to church. Those are great reasons why follow-up is important. And so you'll see on the screen, I'm going to put up a couple of things that some of these that you've already mentioned. It really makes people feel cared for. People want to feel cared for, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. So follow-up is important because it does make people who come and visit your church feel like there's a genuine connection there. So that's important. So it's also important because it increases the likelihood that a first-time guest is going to come back. When we follow up with them, you're going to see that more people are going to be coming back again because you've made the connection for them in your follow-up strategy. So if you follow up, you're going to more likely to see people come back to your church. It also shows how well your congregation is doing at inviting people to church. When you do follow-up, if your congregation is inviting people to come to your church, that's a good measurement of seeing how your follow-up is going. And then follow-up is important because it really does put a system in place to help make sure that no one falls through the cracks, because the worst thing that could happen is that the people that come to your VBS or your summer event or whatever event you're doing, that they fall through the cracks. And that would be, that'd be a sad thing to happen. So these reasons and the ones that you have put in the chat are really important reasons why we should be doing follow-up. And Dave's right. It underscores the fact that, follow-up is not just for Vacation Bible School, but any time that a person comes into our building, into our church, or at an event that we have, whether it's in our building or not, we should be making sure that we follow up. So what I want to do tonight, I'm going to give you some winning strategies, I hope, but I want you to keep this in mind as we talk tonight. So there are just some things to remember about Vacation Bible School, because the season of Vacation Bible School is a marathon. I don't know about you, but a lot of people begin preparing for Vacation Bible School as soon as last year's Vacation Bible School was over, because they're such VBS geeks like me. We just love Vacation Bible School. And as soon as we knew the theme was coming, of course, we jumped into Vacation Bible School. So the season of Vacation Bible School is a marathon, and it's a long time. But keeping that in perspective, that you have the season of VBS, the week of Vacation Bible School, it becomes a sprint, because now you've spent all this time preparing for Vacation Bible School, right? And now you're into the whole, week of VBS, and it just becomes a sprint. And what happens? We all get exhausted. And then what happens after that? Everybody takes a vacation. And then the problem is that we need to make sure we plan for the fact that we're going to be exhausted, but we also need to plan for the fact that we want to finish well, which is what follow-up is all about. So that's what I want to talk to you about tonight, is that follow-up. So I want us to think about that Connect 4 board. And in that game, the way you win is that you have to have 4, right? You've got to have 4 of your balls, either going across or up and down or diagonal. And so I want to give you 4 moves on how to have a winning strategy when it comes to follow-up. So let's make a move. So we're going to make 4 moves tonight. And so the first move is to make sure you're getting the right information. Your follow-up strategy can rise and fall on the information that you maybe get or don't get when it comes to Vacation Bible School. So I want you to think about that. What type of information do you need in order to do the best follow-up that you can? And you can write some of your responses there in the chat if you'd like. But I want you to think about the fact that a lot of times we have people fill out registration forms that we can't read, right? And that or they go in a drawer and nobody even looks at them because everybody's exhausted. But we need to make sure that we're getting the right information. So make sure, and one of the reasons I love online forms is usually people who fill out online forms, you at least can read the information because they're typed. But the problem sometimes with online forms is sometimes there are typos. And I had that with an event that we have at our church. We did an Easter egg hunt last year. And so I downloaded everybody's email just to send them a quick email. And there was 100 emails. And out of 100 emails, 7 of them were wrong. And I looked at some of them and I was able to decipher that they were wrong, and I was able to correct them and then resend. But if you're going to make connections with people, you have to make sure that the information that you're getting is important. So you want to make sure, and Cindy wrote it in the chat, make sure you get good phone number, a good address, and a good email information, right? So make sure that you have, and that's just, simple information to get. But another piece of important information that's going to help you with your follow-up is going to be when you dig a little deeper with people and you find out why they're coming to your Vacation Bible School. And that's really important as well. And you're right. And we have to be concerned about people's privacy. You're right, Dave. And so that's why when you're getting information on people, you instead of saying it out loud. So what I do when I'm doing Vacation Bible School registration, I print out the pre-registration forms, and instead of going over the information verbally, I'll show the form to the people and I'll just say, can you just check to make sure this information is correct? And invariably there's information on that form that isn't correct. And so then we take care of it right then and there. So it's really important that you take the time to make sure that the information you have about people are correct. And so let me put up some more information here just so I don't forget anything along the way. So that pre-registration form online is a good thing. But make sure during Vacation Bible School, you're just asking other questions, getting to know people, because we're going to talk about that in our second move in a minute. And so make sure that the information is accurate and complete. So figure out, how is your church going to interact with people after Vacation Bible School? Is it going to be an email? If it is, guess what? That's the information that you want to make sure that's correct. If it's going to be in a text form, you need to make sure that you have people's telephone numbers, and you need to ask permission to text people. So be careful about that, because some people just assume people want to be texted. And on your information form, you should ask people, what a means of communication would you like to receive from us? And ask them, do you prefer a text? Do you prefer email? Do you prefer a phone call? Do you prefer mail? So we need to give them all the options, and then we need to make sure that we abide by people's wishes, because that's one thing that'll turn people off if we're not careful. If we're we start blasting them with information that they tell you right up front that they don't want. So one of the things we put on our registration forms or check-in forms when we do events is we always ask people, do you want more information about our church? And do you want us to let you know about our next event? And if people say yes to those, then we send them information about our church, and we send them information about the next events that we have. But if they check off the box no, guess what? We abide by that as well. And again, it's one of the worst things if they say no and you still contact them. So you have to be careful of that, because again, you want to abide by their wishes. Just because you have an event and you have their information doesn't give you the right to use it. And you should be wise and ask permission to do that. And I know I hate to put it, I have all that information, and I hate not to use that information for events, but if they ask not to, then I don't. So remember that. So what can you do with the information that you do have? So here are some things. You want to do emails is a non-intrusive way for you to get information to people. And when you do emails, make sure they're complete, that you have the right information on there, that they don't have any typos in them. Make sure you have other people in your church looking at those emails before you send them out to people. And people that like emails are usually millennials, and the older generation don't mind emails. So keep that in mind when you're sending out emails. Now, another way to contact people would be telephone calls. And these can be highly intrusive, but if done right, it adds a strong personal touch. If you make phone calls to people, this can be an opportunity to have a great personal and meaningful conversation with your visitors, so long as you ask them when you call and they pick up, say, do you have a moment? And let them know where you're calling from. And make sure you make the phone call short and brief. Unless they start opening up and talking, you want to make sure that you keep the conversation brief, and make sure you have a good reason to call. Hey, just calling to thank you for coming to Vacation Bible School and wanted to invite you to the next event that we're going to have, and you can tell them about that. And so the telephone calls are preferred by the older generation and baby boomers. So, keep that in mind. The next type of communication would be text messages. And this text messages, that really strikes the perfect balance between the personal and the non-intrusive. And and texts can have higher open rates. But again, remember, you need to ask permission before you start sending a whole barrage of text to people. And don't feel like you need to just continue to text them all the time, because you may get a point, and somebody told me this in a conference that I went to, that one person got so upset with all the texts that were coming from their church, and they came back and said, you don't even have permission to use it. And so you have to be careful, because there needs to be a balance when it comes to that. And it's the best way to talk to Gen Z and also to millennials. They usually prefer a text. And again, your text needs to be short and it needs to be to the point. And you should, again, check for typos and make sure your dates are right before you press that send button when it comes to your text. And then, of course, there's postcards, and there, again, is non-intrusive because postcards can be a rare thing for churches to send out, but you can add a personal touch. You send a postcard and write a personal note on the postcard. And postcards can be used for all generations. And again, it's just an additional way for you to communicate with people. And then, of course, you have in-person visits is another way. If you ask permission to make a visit, or if you do a doorstop visit, I call, and either bring them something, say, hey, we want to thank you for coming to Vacation Bible School, just wanted to drop this off, and then after that leave. If they want to continue the conversation, you can, but just make sure that you're not being intrusive when it comes to that. And so that's a good way. These are some great ways that you can use the information that you got during your Vacation Bible School. So move number one is make sure you're getting the right information. So now I've shared the move. Now I'm going to give you an opportunity. What's your move? What are you going to do? What do you need to do to get more information more effectively? And you can put some of those things in the chat if you'd like. And how can you use the information you do get more effectively? Are there some ideas that we've mentioned tonight that might help you get some good information? You can put that. Dave mentions he uses Flocknote to manage his emails, and that's always a good way. I think I got one from you this morning, Dave, from Flocknote. Yep. MailChimp is another way you certainly, or Constant Contact, or a way to manage emails to people. And so you think about what are the ways that you're managing that information in a good way, again, so that it doesn't get thrown on a computer and forgotten. You want to make sure that you use it in the right way. Okay. All right. So that was move number one, getting the right information. Now, move number two is that you need to move toward building relationships. You need to move from taking that information that you just got, and then how do you move into building relationships? And I want to say building relationships right away. One of the things that we've learned in follow-up is that we need to make sure that we have that we're doing it quickly, because the longer you wait, the trail becomes cold. The trail becomes cold. And I say to people all the time, make sure you contact them within 3 days. Okay, your first contact should be within 3 days of their last visit. Make sure you're making some type of contact with them in 3 days, and then after that, there should be another contact with them within 3 weeks, and then if they respond, great. But if they don't, do one more after 3 months. And so that might be a good way to gauge, how to, what to do with that information you get. But it's so important that you build relationships and you do it right away. So let me give you some questions. Let me give you some things that to think about here. And I love this statement right here. Guests return not because of what we do, but it's because how we make them feel. So think about that. Guests are going to return to your church, not because of what we do, but because how we make them feel. And so let me bring you to think about it from their perspective, from the visitor's perspective. What are the questions that they're asking when they leave your church? When they leave your church, they're asking this. They're asking, first of all, can I make friends in this church? Can I make friends in this church? This is a question of belonging. They want to know if they're going to belong to your church, if there's going to be an opportunity for them to make friends And are they going to be able to belong in your church? Is your church a friendly church? And not just high, all that type of stuff, but is it a place where they can make friends? You can have lots of friendly people, but if people don't want to make friends, then people are not going to stick around. So when you're thinking about, follow up, visitors or guests, this is what they're asking. Can I really make friends in this church? And again, it starts with what? Building a relationship. It's so important. And I think Cindy, yeah, you wrote she has a large Hispanic population, so we're mindful of having everything that we use in Spanish. And you're right, because again, if you have a population in your area that's multicultural, right? You want to make sure that when people come into your congregation, into your church to visit, that you have stuff in their heart language. A lot of times they can understand English, but maybe they have a hard time with the written word. And so having things in their language can be so very important. So the first question people are asking is, can I make friends in this church? The second question they're asking is there a place I can fit in? So this question goes to acceptance. People want to know, can they be accepted in your church? Are there going to be affinity groups? Are there are there places for them to fit in? For example, people that come in that are single, is there a group of single people that they might be able to connect with? Are there people in your church that are families that have special needs? So when they come in and they have a child that has special needs, or a young adult that has special needs, and if your church doesn't offer something like that, well, they're probably going to say, I'm not sure that I'll be accepted here. So people are asking those questions. Will I feel do I feel like I belong here? Do I feel like I'm accepted here? And then the next question people ask, if you're a visitor, they say, does this church really want me? And this goes back to something somebody already said in the chat, is this whole thing about personal value. They want to be valued. So after the initial words of welcome, are newcomers actively invited to participate in any roles in your church? So if people have been coming for a few weeks or a month or two, do you engage them in church? Do you help, have a place for them to serve, whether they become a greeter, or, maybe they can work with the hospitality. Maybe, you have a potluck. We have a potluck every single month. Maybe that's a place that they can fit in. So an affinity group would be things like single adults. It could be young adults. It could be parents that have young children. That would be an affinity group. It's where they would feel like, the people that I'm looking for, I could fit in with them. So if you have young children, guess what? Your affinity group are going to be families that have young children. Okay. Dave mentions maybe a gift of administration. Sure. Maybe your church needs their bulletins folded every week, right? You could, if you have a new person that's, just wanting to get to be part of the church, maybe that would be a way for them to volunteer. You probably wouldn't want them to be working with your children, because, we want to make sure that people that working with our children are background checked as well as supervised, because that's just a smart thing to do. But there are, again, all sorts of other ways people can serve in your church, before they fully engage. So just think about that. So they're asking these three questions: a question of belonging, a question of acceptance, and then that question of personal value. And so, but part of the follow-up needs to be, are we building those relationships right away? And so, it's important that we do that. So that's the second move you need to make. What's the first move? The first move is we need to get the right information. Second move is we need to build those relationships, and we need to start building them right away. And that's where those additional questions is about information. We need to find out, why are people coming to our Vacation Bible School? You know, what information, why are people coming? Maybe people are coming because, they just moved into town. Maybe people are coming because, they recently had a death in the family, and they're thinking about mortality. So maybe that's the reason they're coming. Maybe there's somebody who again has experienced loss, and they're looking for friends. So there's lots of reasons why people are coming to your church. And as you build relationships with them, they're going to be willing to share with you those types of things. And again, that's where we have this opportunity to build relationships. Yes, Ashley, you definitely need to be addressing the allergies in the registration process. In any good registration form for Vacation Bible School, and if you're using Lifeway material, in their administrative guide, they have a great registration form. And one of the things that they do address is your allergies in that. Also, they address things like who can pick up the children, very important safety and security things. So absolutely, you need to make sure that you address those factors, allergies, and who can pick up your children. So the second thing was building relationships. Now it's your move. So here's a couple of questions to think about as you're thinking about your move. How are you doing building relationships? Is your church really strong at building relationships with other people? Or is it something perhaps you might need to work on? Another question you might be asking, your church needs to be asking, is what can we do to build stronger relationships? What do we need to do in our church to make sure that we're building stronger relationships? And then finally, another question, who can help us do this? Who in your church are the friendly people? Who are the people that like to interact with other people? There are people in church that get energized by other people. So those are the extroverts. They love other people. They love to talk to people, and they're magnets for people. And so you need to make sure that you're engaging those type of people in your Vacation Bible School. And they may be some of your senior adults, and invite them to come to your Vacation Bible School and say, hey, the only thing we want you to do is be friendly, ask, and get to know people, build relationships with people, because that's how you're going to make connections with people, is if you have the right people that are helping you. So that's the second move. So right information, start building relationships very, very quickly. That's so important. Move number 3, make sure you're moving them toward another event. So I know you're doing VBS, you're exhausted, but make sure you have your next event in the queue, get ready. You want to make sure that when Vacation Bible School is over, you're giving them a card and saying to them, this is what's coming up next, and make sure you have a date and you're ready to go. Right? Or Dave says, or move them toward a group. Absolutely. Whatever event, or group that you have, that might be an opportunity for you to do follow-up. But make sure you're moving them towards something else that's going on in the life of your church. So what I do at our church is we have 3 or 4 different events that we do throughout the year. So we do an Easter egg hunt, or we call it an Easter extravaganza. During the pandemic, we did take-home Easter egg hunt kits where we would just give them the Easter eggs. They would do their own hunt. This year, we're doing an Easter egg hunt in our church property this year. We're going to be doing that. So that's the first event that we do. Then the second event that we do is we do VBS. And then the third event that we do is we do an ice cream social. And then sometimes we do something in the fall. Sometimes it's a trunk or treat or something like that, or something during the holiday time. But we always make sure that we've got 3 or 4 different events already queued up on our calendar so we can move people to another event. So write some of those events that perhaps you're going to do after Vacation Bible School. What are some of the events that you do? And Dave, I love your idea about moving them to a group if appropriate, and especially if you do youth Vacation Bible School and you have a youth group. Great to make sure you have representation from your group. Great. Cindy, you do Fall Festival. Great. Awesome. What other types of events can you do? It's funny, one of the things that we do at our church that we've done the last, I think 2 or 3 years, is an ice cream social. And so we used to do back to school bash. And so, we noticed a lot of people are doing back to school bashes. So we wanted to do something different. So we change it up. We don't feel like we have to do the same thing over and over again. So I like that. So, okay, keep going. Okay, Alice is keeping track. So Alice writes Cindy's name down. Cindy Salter, we're going to send you a special prize. Ashley, we're going to send you something. We've had movie nights planned. Great. August following VBS. So Ashley, we're going to send you something. All right. And then we are offering a family event the last Saturday of each month. I love that idea. I'm going to send you a prize too. I think it's Lori Lawler. So we'll put you on for a prize. Love that idea. I love that idea. And then Dave, I'll send you a prize. Dave's a coffee man, so he likes to meet with people and have coffee, which is awesome. It's a great way to build relationships. And again, moving people forward. That's what we want to do. We want to get the right information. So think about this. We want the right information. That's the first move. Second move is start building relationships right away. And then the third thing we want to do is make sure we move toward another event. Make sure you have something going on. Now, Renee's on this call, and when we did our first webinar this year was about promotion and publicity, and we were talking, and so during our Easter event, we're going to try to get some magnets and give that with the date of Vacation Bible School. We're trying to still get our date for VBS, and we will have it, but I'm hoping I get it in plenty of time so I can do some magnets. So that's another great thing. You give them something, they can put it on the refrigerator with the date and be ready for the next event. So it's so important that we think about what's going to bring families back. So church picnics a great idea. Ice cream socials, back to school bashes. How about a VBS reunion? You've done all of this work with VBS. Maybe bring some of the decorations, keep some of the decorations and do some type of especially if you have VBS early in the summer, have something at the end of the summer to kind of bring them back. You can relive the music and some of the games and the snacks of Vacation Bible School. Again, just a great way, again, to bring people back to your church, a fun day. And I just love that idea of they offer a family event the last Sunday of every single month. That's a great idea. Love that idea. And again, it keeps bringing people back. So what's your move? So I want to ask you, so the question is, what's your move? What can you be ready with the next connection point? Are you ready with the next connection point? I can tell some of you have already thought about that. And can you have a strategy ready to reach people all year round? Get to that place where you have 3 or 4 events, anchor events, that you make sure that you have all year round, and you keep working it, and you keep getting other people involved in helping you, so you're not doing it all by yourself, that you're not doing it all by yourself. I want to check my time. I'm good. All right. So 3 things so far, right? Our first move is right information. Second move, right away, you want to start building relationships. Third thing you want to make sure you do is you want to make sure you're moving them toward your next event, or your next group, or your next way for people to get engaged with your church. That's going to give you a winning strategy. And then finally, the fourth move needs to be that we move toward connecting people, connecting prospects to other people, because you don't want to be just the only person that people that come to your Vacation Bible School see. You want to then begin to connect people with other people in your church. So I want you to think about that. Who are people in your church that people, as you see on the screen, people need community. That's the way people are going to feel like they belong. They're going to be, people feel like they're accepted, and that's how people are going to feel like they have value, when you help connect them to your church community. Okay, so it's so important that that you help make connections, or that friendly person I talked about, let them help the people that they're meeting to make new connections as they're asking questions. They might find, they may talk to a mom who's got a little boy who's on the autism spectrum. And so maybe the person that's talking will say, hey, I need to connect you with Anna. She's got a little girl that also has some special needs challenges. Maybe I can connect you to. So those are the types of connections you want to help people with. Now, at our church, one of the best parts of our Vacation Bible School is we do adult Vacation Bible School. So we don't just do VBS for kids, we do it for adults too. And that's another great way to connect people in your church. I have to say, our adult Vacation Bible School is the biggest class than even any of our kids' classes. We only have a small church of about 60, but our adult class is about they have about 20 or 25 in that class every year consistently, and that's total attendance. And so they run probably 16 or 17 every single night at Adult Vacation Bible School. So even there, connecting people from that group back into the life of the church. So and Kim says, yes, my nephew has autism, and so it's helpful to have VBS that works for them. And I hope some of you maybe got last week's webinar. We did one on meeting families with special needs through our VBS. So you might want to take a look at that webinar, because we talked about kids with children with special needs. And we do have to make sure that our VBS connects with them as well. So think about that. So it's so important that we connect people, because again, that's how they're going to feel like they belong. That's how they're going to feel that they're accepted. And I love this scripture in Hebrews chapter 10, 24 and 25. I'm going to read it to you. And it says, and let us consider how we may spur one another on toward love and good deeds, not giving up meeting together as some are in the habit of doing, but encourage one another, and all the more as you see the day approaching. So it's so important, again, that we make the connections for people so they can be spurred on. They can be spurred on. So it's so important. So it's all good stuff. But again, we need to help make those connections, because we know what our church has. Like, for example, last year, we had somebody in our church that came for Vacation Bible School, and we found out that they had a need for food. And we didn't publicize that we had a food pantry, but we connected that person, very discreetly with our food pantry ministry coordinator, and that person was able to get food. So it's all sorts of things you learn about people, again, as you're making the effort to get to know them. Now, our pastor is a people person. And so I never give him a job at Vacation Bible School, because he never does it, because he's so interested in connecting with people that he never does the job. So, sometimes he'll say, I'll do registration. And I did that a couple of years, but we never got the right information because he was too busy talking to people. So now he's the floating greeter for Vacation Bible School or any event that we have. That's what our pastor does, because he's a natural connector of people. And so you need those types of people to help connect people with. And that's what he does best. He'll say, you need to get connected to Sandy, or you need to get, Cindy has one too. And so you just need to get connected to Steve, or you need to get connected to Mike's group, or you need to get connected to our kids' church on Sunday. We have something for that. And so you need people that can do that. And that's where this connection really happens. And again, that's where people get cemented into the life of your church when this type of things happen. So important that we do 3 things when we do our follow-up. Make sure your first connection counts. When they come to that registration table and they pre-registered, make sure you have that form. Make sure you're not saying, oh, you got to fill this out again. But make sure that first connection that they make with your church is a very, very positive one. And so it starts from the moment they, step foot on your campus or, on your grounds of your church. So it's so important to ensure that people are known, call them by their first name. Make sure that, and I'm a big proponent of name tags, because I'm good at names, but sometimes not so good. So ensure that people are known. Everybody wear name tags. You wear a name tag. Your whole church needs the name tag. People say, well, we know everybody, but you know what? Not everybody knows everybody. So everybody wears a name tag. So we're all on level playing field. So level playing field, because you want to make sure people are known, and not just the parents, but the kids too. Get on their level. Make sure you know their name. I can't say enough. These personal connections are so important. And then that's when you'll get the opportunity, when we make a good first impression, when we ensure people are known, so when people say something on day one, about a challenge that you're having, make sure you check back with them, because then they're going to know that they meant something to me, because I'm thinking about what you're talking about. And they're willing to open up more. And then it gets to the point where they're willing to be able to pour into deeper type relationships. Okay. And I like that. Do they do a name tag Sunday when they're having a big fellowship event? Anytime you have a lot of people there, you definitely need to wear name tags. I am a big proponent. I know churches. I know I'm getting a little off here, but I know churches, because I think this is a good follow-up thing. I know churches that have name tags, clip-on name tags for every single person in their church. And as soon as a new person comes in, they just make a name tag for them too. So everybody sees everybody's name tag. I just love that. And Nancy says, we did name tag November last fall. Everyone wore the name tags every Sunday during the entire month. So there you go. So name tags can be your friend. And I love that idea. Alice put Nancy down. She gets a prize. That's an awesome idea. Name tag. I love that. I just love that. Thank you, Nancy. Awesome. All right. So what's your move? What's your move when it comes to help people even have deeper relationships? And so So here's a couple of questions to ask yourself. Is connection too complicated? Have we made connections too complicated? You know, I always say we need to do the KISS principle. Keep it simple, sweetheart. Just keep it simple. My name's Sandy, so I just say, keep it simple, Sandy, you know, girl. So we need to make sure that our on-ramps into the church are very simple. Very simple. Keep it simple. That's the best thing. Do you have a clear stepping stone for people to connect? You know, how are people going to be able to connect at your church? What are some small ways that you can get people connected? Loves Dave idea about about groups. Some churches have D-Life groups and discipleship groups. Some people have, community groups. Whatever it is, try to get people connected. There are also opportunities to connect online. Some churches are still doing online groups. Let people connect online. It's so very important. So very important. So what are the moves are? Let's move first toward getting the right information. Then let's move toward building the relationships right away. And then the next thing is let's build toward the next event, move people forward to that next event right away. And then we need to make sure that we move toward connecting prospects with other people in your church. And, spread the love around. There's all sorts of people in your church, so spread the love around. Even when people come into your church, perhaps that first Sunday after coming to VBS, connect them with somebody who went to the Vacation Bible School. Make people feel welcome. Have them show people where the preschool area is, or show people where the kids are going to go, or bring them over to the coffee pot, or whatever it is. Make sure you make them feel welcome right away. And it's so important. Above all, I want you to undergird all of these moves in prayer, because we need to be praying for this opportunity that we have for Vacation Bible School. So one of the things I like to do when getting ready for Vacation Bible School, especially pre-registration, share the names, and I just do the first name and last initial, and I make up a little bookmark for our church, and I say, please pray for all of these kids and their families during our Vacation Bible School. And I put those in the bulletin the week before Vacation Bible School starts. So we need to pray for kids and families to open their hearts up to new relationships. We need to pray for persons in our own church, because not everybody's welcoming. So we need to be praying for people in our own church, that they'll be receptive when people sit in their seats, because there are people out there that they have the same seat every week, and if somebody's sitting at home, no. So we have to prepare people for that. They're just little things like that, but we need to pray for opportunities connect, and we got to pray for follow-up and for the barriers and the distractions to be diminished. We really truly do. So whatever you do with follow-up, you need to make sure that you undergird everything with prayer. So I really do, I do hope this was helpful tonight, but these would be, I would say, the four things. And pray for the volunteers. Absolutely. Everybody, pray for that pastor that's walking around, making those connections. And I like that, Ashley. We advertise on a video all of our connect groups prior to worship. That's great. That's great. Make sure that people know in your bulletins, for people that I do announcements at our church, make sure that people know how to connect. One of the things I do between Sunday school and worship, we have about 10 minutes. As soon as I walk into our sanctuary, I begin saying hello to people. And I don't always gravitate toward the people that I know, but I gravitate to the people that I haven't seen in a long time, or somebody that I've never seen before. And I gravitate toward them first before I get caught up talking to somebody that I do know, because again, I want to make sure people feel welcome. So that's so important. So please, if you have any questions, I hope this has been helpful tonight. I hope it's really been helpful, and hope those 4 moves, will help you along the way.